Here we are at the Brigantine public boat ramp. There's two ways you can launch here, either using the ramp, walking down and launching off of this dock. It's a floating dock, it's very low to the water. One of the things that I will show you is how to get the board over the edge, keep it close, keep the paddle very close to you, push off all on your knees, and then paddle out. The other launching method is through the boat ramp. Sometimes it's a busy day on the boat ramp and you'll have to wait for a boat to actually launch their boat, move out in the car to pull away, because you don't want to be on this ramp when somebody is launching a boat. But it's great. It's a public boat ramp. There's public parking. No fee required for parking. It's a great place to launch. So some days when the wind is blowing hard in here, it's going to keep you back in this area. But on most conditions, northwest winds, where the northwest is blowing, it's actually northwest winds today, and you can see the surface current. So look at your conditions. If the wind is blowing hard, I'm going to hug the dock over on the west side of this, and it keeps the wind resistance down. When you're paddling as a beginner, it takes a little bit of time to understand how to paddle into the wind, but you always want to paddle into the wind first so that coming back is a lot easier. Okay, getting blown into the docks, of course, on either side can be a problem for you if you're an absolute beginner. So pay attention to where you're going. When you launch, we're going to launch on our knees first and then paddle out away from the dock, away from any obstacles, and then stand up and start paddling. It's a beautiful day to paddle. Let's go do it. When launching from the floating dock, go to your knees, step a foot down, put a knee on the board, push off of the dock, and both knees will be on the board, and you'll canoe paddle out away from the dock. Lift your head, put 1 foot, 2 foot, stay low coming up. Take your time getting up, wiggle the board a little bit just to get used to it, and start your paddling. So paddling at the boat ramp and launching at the boat ramp is another one of my favorite locations because it opens you up to lots of different bay areas. If you're a beginner, staying in this whole area is plenty of paddling for you. About 2-hour paddle back and forth, paddling around, looking at all the boats is just pleasurable. One of the things that you want to be cautious of is when the boats launch through here, they're going to slowly go out through the middle. So if there's a lot of boats launching, then stay off to the right or to the left. Give the boaters room to go in and out and just enjoy the view. Paddling through boat wake, just relax. It's not like it's going to tip you over, knock you over. If it's bigger, just kind of relax your legs, go into a neutral position. Neutral stance is having your knees bent, even your pressure between the heel and the balls of your feet, and keeping your head up over the board for best balance. Get your hands with a little bit more than a shoulder width spread, arms out, arms extended, and reach. My head is over the board. My torso is driving the upper portion of the paddle forward and down. My hand comes across over to the opposite side of the board, my upper hand, and the lower hand just absorbs all the pressure that I'm putting on the top portion of the paddle. Knees bend slightly as I paddle. My torso leans onto the paddle for optimum efficiency while I'm paddling. I could do this all day. If you venture out the mouth of this cove here, then you'll see currents and more wind. So if you want to challenge yourself and you want to paddle out into the open bay, what you'll experience besides wind and current is more boat traffic, maybe bigger wake. So make sure before you go out too far that you're able to handle it. The winds are northwest today, meaning it's blowing from my right to the left of the bay. So I would naturally turn upwind, but sometimes the current can be offsetting. So the incoming tide, let's see what the current has, if any, the current and the wind has as we get out through the mouth of the inlet. Paddling through small boat wake is no problem. Just look at the surface and paddle right through it. If you keep your knees loose, your body loose, your body easily absorbs the surface of the water, and best for your balance. So I feel the wind coming at me. The incoming tide isn't really having an effect on which way the tide is running through here. The currents kind of meet coming from the back inlet and the front inlet. So it's kind of like a wash today. Nothing's happening. So if I want to go for a paddle, I'm going to go upwind. And I'll paddle up, not going too far out into the middle of the channel for safety. Don't forget, you're going to have your PFD on you, which I have a strapped on one. It's a inflatable type, compact. And if you're going a distance, definitely take a phone and a wet pack with you, just in case you run into any kind of situation, as a boater would. Great day for a paddle. Well, I could paddle for hours today. Turning the board, I like to step back a little bit, crouching down just a bit, 1 foot on each side of the center line of the board. It just brings the front rails out of the water, helps it to pivot turn a little bit easier. Or of course, you can just do a backward C stroke and turn the board very quickly and easily. Once you get in the direction of where you want to go, step back up and paddle back. Great location to launch. So much scenery around here. Brigantine is great. Of course, we're a barrier island surrounded by water. There's lots of other hidden gems and places to launch, but as a beginner, always got to think safety. You'll start absorbing this sport before you know it. Ready for next level paddling. There's the ocean to paddle on small days. Just go out and paddle with the dolphin. See lots of ocean, marine life. In the back bay, it's all about the scenery and the birds in the marshes. Good place. Brigantine is a great island. Note when I'm paddling, keeping my head in line with the direction I want to go. I'm not leaning way out, creating a off balance. But when I paddle, my hips are swaying the opposite direction of the paddle as like a counterbalance. I'm leaning my torso, keeping my arms extended, driving with the upper shoulder and arm. Arm comes across your body. Once the paddle gets past your feet, bring the paddle up, out and up. Paddle enters the water somewhat vertical. The power zone of the stroke is right in here. Once you get out of the power zone, extend your knees, come up and down again. All this straw comes from the marshes. It's overgrown straw, out of season now, and the high tides lift it up out of the marshes, and you'll see it floating around until the new growth starts to occur. So I am on the windward side of this cove here, so the wind is coming from this direction, blowing across this way. So if I want to easier paddle, I'm hiding using the houses and the docks and the bulkheads to block some of the wind. If I go out into the middle, I'll experience more wind. It's always good to know where the wind is coming from, and you have to use obstacles to block you if you really want to, or if you want to paddle upwind. If you are going upwind and you want to duck under the wind, I shorten the paddle. So if I'm paddling into the wind, I want a lower center of gravity. I'm ducking under the wind. I'm digging deeper. My knees are bending. Every paddle stroke, I'm dipping in my rear chamber in my legs and coming out of it. Just kind of keeping my head down a little bit. So every stroke, I'm ducking under the wind. And I'm not standing all the way upright. I'm not coming fully out of my crouch. So I want to keep a low profile. Otherwise, sightseeing paddle stroke. Keep that paddle longer. And just enjoy the scenery. So there's two ramps. There's one ramp and two docks that you can launch from. If the ramp is being used to launch a boat, then use the docks on either side. They're floating docks. As I approach this dock that I'm going to exit the water from, I'm going to come in nice and slow, go down to my knees, and then walk out onto the dock. If I wanted to use the ramp, I'm going to come up on my knees. As soon as I see that I'm in about knee-deep water, step off the board on one side and just walk it. Ramps can be slippery. Anywhere that there's a chance for algae growth, just be careful that you don't slip. So right now you want to go down to your knees and just canoe paddle into the dock, nice and slow. All right, taking it slow. Don't crash into the dock. Going down to the knees is very important. If you're standing and you bump into the dock, you're going to wind up landing on the dock. And not pretty. Put your paddle up here. Come in close to the dock. Come over to the middle with one knee. Step up on the dock, one knee and one foot. Now leash is still attached. At this point I'll take my leash off. Pull the board up. And that's it, folks. Walking up the ramp, very easy, paddle in one hand. Got the board by the center ledge handle. So once you leave the water, you want to get the board back on your vehicle nice and clean. Don't set it down anywhere where it's going to scratch the beautiful surface. Inflatable boards are much more durable, so they'll take more of a beating than a board with a beautiful painted finish. Set your paddle down. Get your straps in place where you want them so you're able to toss them up around. So I'm leaning this on my knee. Don't worry about the leash for now. Get a hand on the opposite side. Drain the water. Put one end on. Other end. Now I have two boards here and I have a very tall truck. So if you have this scenario, you'll probably need somebody tall enough to help you load the board back up. Take the strap, pull it around, get your strap on. These are still set from where I had it before, so not a problem. And there we go. Ready to go. Take your leash off. I like to keep my gear locked up if you own a board. These locks are great. Keep it locked up. And once I dry it off, I'll put the cover back on it. It's a UV cover. They're great to use. If you own equipment, keep in mind that if it's an adjustable paddle, pull it apart before you go home and rinse it out with fresh water so you don't have salt crystallizing in there. And it's as easy as that.